Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you to Transport Events and AJ for hosting this webinar. And I'd like to add my welcome to everyone joining today on an important and vexatious topic. In a world that's encountering sustained trade stress and supply chain disruption, this is a risk that can be expected to deteriorate, and we value this opportunity to debate the issues. For those unfamiliar with TT Club, it's a mutual providing insurance and risk management for interests throughout the global supply chain, including cargo, freight forwarders and NVOCs, ports and terminals, and containers and similar equipment. With this mix of tailored asset and liability covers, TT sees as its core mission to make the transport industry safer and more secure. If you could move to the next slide, please, AJ. Those unfamiliar with this industry might expect that all goods moving in international trade are eagerly awaited at destination. The regular reality is rather different, where for a host of reasons, cargo is abandoned. I'll look at this in a little more detail in a moment, but there are reasonable causes, such as insolvency or loss of market. What you might call aggravated causes being when something gets stuck in the process, possibly related to a regulatory impasse. And then what I'd describe as the dark, which may be illicit trades, counterfeits and contraband. Whatever the cause, those involved in moving cargo, and especially forwarders and logistics operators, face the headache and disruption of trying to unblock what's happened. While practically or contractually there may be links to those with an interest in the consignment when an alert is raised, for example, from a container operator seeking return of the empty unit, everyone is on the back foot. And resolving a problem is most likely to be draining on time and resource. This will inevitably involve a number of people, not just with the forwarder or agent and the shipping line, but also the terminal or storage facility, and potentially regulators, most often customs, but depending on the nature of the cargo or its condition, those with safety responsibility, safety authorities. Apart from all this diversion from a productive activity, the costs that will continue ticking up, it may well be that lawyers and courts eventually become involved, scrutinizing who actually owns the cargo or might own the cargo, as well as other contractual rights such as liens over or the right to dispose of the cargo. And these will be touched on again through this webinar. Even without some of the hazards that this webinar will explore, this is an unwelcome irritation through the supply chain. Next slide, please. Inevitably, experience enables us to identify a number of characteristics that can assist actors in being alert ahead of a problem arising. For the most part, what I'm addressing here is covered more thoroughly in TT's recently published stop-loss document entitled Abandonment of Cargo, Avoiding the Pitfalls, which I will commend to you. Suffice to say that there are a range of red flags that can be used by logistics operators to put them on alert that the booking may present challenges. In the complex world of freight logistics, which already needs to take account of mandatory requirements such as IMDG, for dangerous goods, and non-mandatory good practice such as the CTU code, amongst other things. There's also the thorny issue of sanctions checking. Many of the things identified here can act directly to put those taking a booking on alert, such as the commodity type or the nature of the shipper counterparty. But others require application of broader awareness, sniffing out things that might not make sense in the circumstances. It has to be recognized that it's difficult to proceduralize such issues. which rely on experience and a sound handle of global current affairs. I'd hope that this is explored further in some of the later presentations or the debate we have on the panel. On top of these points, the industry is under considerable stress at this time, which merely heightens the risks that cargo will be abandoned. The next slide, please. Enough on generalities. While I'm sure that others will mention specific cases, this anonymized case study reflects a real incident. The container had been discharged in the normal fashion. It had been identified as an abandoned cargo through set terminal procedures because it wasn't picked up in the normal time. And it was moved eventually to be inspected by customs. The additional moves were ultimately causative since deterioration of the cargo composition made it susceptible to go on fire. However, what was evident here was that the long time in storage should have been curtailed, and a mixture of poor communications between the various agencies involved resulted in the hazards not being fully recognised, and thus delays led to an unfortunate and costly incident. The figure here, the figure mentioned on this slide is neither the ultimately insured amount nor the full economic loss. It's a figure that is known, but shows that these matters are not all resolved through hard problem solving. That may be largely indirect costs to those involved. The next slide, please. I don't intend to expand on these points at the moment. To some extent, they summarize some of the points I've already made. And where that's not the case, I expect the following speakers will address them very adequately. And if not, we can return to mitigating actions in the panel discussion. So on that basis, Mike, back to you. Thank you.